Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who tries to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today I have a personal story for you and it's kind of scary. So stick around. We'll talk about this down at the beach. You can find all of these stories online about how people at rest stops manage to get hit in the head and have things taken from them. They're important for our topic today. So as many of you who watch the channel know, I went down to Gulf Shores to the Gulf State Park Lodge, which by the way is a Hilton property, very nice. That's the way to camp on the beach, let me tell you. I went down there to do a presentation for the Alabama Society for Respiratory Care. While I was down there, I did a Parks on the Air activation with my ham radio. I made, I think, 24 contacts all across the United States. And I had a good time doing that. I had an even better time talking to my friends who were respiratory therapists about the law. Then I got in the car, stopped and grabbed a sandwich and a Diet Coke and drove north because I needed to get home that night. Well, it's a funny thing about Diet Coke, or maybe it's not so funny, particularly as you get a little older. That stuff just seems to go through you a lot more quickly than it used to, at least for me. So just south of Greenville on I-65, I realized, boy, I have got to stop at the next rest area. And then boom, there was a rest area that popped up, so I pulled right in. Now, ordinarily when I travel with a firearm, and most of the time when I go into some place like a Walmart or other place like that, I leave the firearm in the car. And I leave the firearm in the car because it's pretty unlikely that you're going to get hurt in a Walmart. But when I go into a restroom in a rest area along the highway, I recognize that a lot of bad things happen in rest areas. People get abducted, people get robbed, all kinds of things happen. So I tucked my pistol in an appendix carry holster and went in to the restroom. And I didn't notice anybody around. I didn't notice anybody looking at me, but I do sort of keep my head on a swivel when I am by myself. Even more so when I'm with my wife. When I'm with my wife, I'm always looking out for anybody who's looking at her. And so I went into the bathroom, and I don't want to get too graphic here, but generally there are 3 upright little appliances that gentlemen use when they have to relieve themselves. And I almost always go right for the middle one, and that's what I did. And of course, it requires both hands when you're doing that. And it also requires a little bit of focus. You got to step up close to the thing to make sure that you don't make a mess. And that's what I did when I heard the door to the restroom open and close very, very slowly. And I heard somebody walking very, very slowly behind me. And generally speaking, when people go into a restroom, they are not interested in stealth. They are interested in getting to the restroom as quickly as possible and taking care of business. As we say down here, taking care of business. So this person was apparently not interested in taking care of business and wasn't in a particularly bad hurry, which sort of brought the hairs up on the back of my neck. So as my hands were in front, I felt this person move up behind me, so I moved my hand to close to my firearm, and I turned around rather quickly, and when I turned around, the guy behind me had his hand up like this, and when he saw that I saw him, he suddenly had to scratch his head. I've had itchy hair for pretty much all my life. You know, a little scratch in the scalp that I need to do. I have never used my fist to do that. You know, I've always used my fingers. And so I am reasonably certain that that guy was going to cold cock me, and he was either going to rob me or do something worse. And if he had wanted to rob me, he could have had anything I had on me if he didn't want to hurt me. But what he wanted to do was he wanted to knock me out, and for whatever reason, I don't know why. But when he saw me, my wife calls it my Klingon stare of death, but that's pretty much what I gave him, was my Klingon stare of death. And he went over to the far urinal and did his business. And I walked out of there, and he stayed in the restroom at least for 7 minutes, because I was waiting to see if he came out. I was going to get his license plate and call it in to the Alabama Highway Patrol. But as it was, I had no idea what car he had come from, and I didn't feel like waiting around all night. So I don't know whether he was waiting in there to ambush somebody or not, but I decided I didn't want to find out. And they are supposed to have security at that particular rest area. So again, I cruised around the rest area on my way out looking for the security guard to tell him, but he wasn't to be found either. I tell you all this for a couple of things. We have entered a phase in this country where you have to be careful about your own security and your own safety. That doesn't mean, you need to carry a bazooka with you every day. What it means is you need to watch. You need to be careful. If I had seen somebody skeevy hanging around the restroom, I wouldn't have gone there. I would have found somewhere else to go, literally. But I didn't, and so because somebody kind of snuck up on me, it left a really bad feeling for me. And I do think it's important for anybody who uses a rest area or a public restroom, goes to a state park, and is anywhere where there are not a lot of people around, particularly at night, to keep your eyes open and be suspicious. And if someone is wearing an outfit like this gentleman was, which was a hoodie, at the very least, if I'd had to call Alabama law enforcement, I could have described him as a white male, about 30 years age, short cropped hair, and a black and white hoodie. At the very least, I could get a good description, and I could certainly identify him again if I needed to. So the object, if there is somebody there doing something bad, is to get law enforcement involved as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, in this instance, I couldn't do that because, one, I didn't want to risk my safety by going back in there, and two, he didn't actually hit me. He simply came awfully close to it, and I was reasonably certain that even if I had made a report, it was unlikely that he would have been arrested or charged with anything. But for my purposes, it was important to talk about here because you need to keep your head on a swivel when you're out in public, particularly when it's in an area where there might not be help immediately available. And the highway is a perfect place for predators, because usually there is not security at a rest area, and even if there is, it's probably 20 or 30 miles to the nearby town, and so as a result of that, even if you were able to get law enforcement, the response time would be significantly delayed. So that's what I have for you today. It's just sort of a be careful, make yourself safe kind of thing. Don't want to lose any subscribers, especially not to something like that. And I'll continue to be safe too, because I'm kind of fond of myself too, just, on general principles. So I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank all of you who have sent me notes telling me that you have done something kind for someone. I can't tell you how much that warms my heart. And I hope you continue to do that, and I hope you continue to enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you very much for watching. Have a marvelous day. and I will catch you down here at the beach next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.